In June of 2016, my boyfriend and I hiked the West Coast Trail on Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. This video is a review of the gear I took, whether I liked what I took, and what I might recommend instead. In a different video, I give a general overview of the hike itself, covering basically how to get to the trail and what the trail was like, how long it took us, and various challenges we faced. But not this video. This video is about the gear. Also keep in mind that trail conditions can and will change, businesses and services may change their schedules or close, gear that fits me might not fit you, and so on, so please don't rely solely on my account of my experience for planning your trip. Everyone's experience on the West Coast Trail will be different. This is a strenuous trail and you should consider carefully before committing to hike it. Let's get started. First, a little about the trail conditions. The West Coast Trail is a 75-kilometer, 46.6-mile trail through North Coast rainforest and is meant to be hiked in the summer over 5 to 7 days. It is well known to be wet, rainy, and muddy. It can also be a little cold. When I hiked the trail, it was after a warm period of no rain. As I started hiking, the rain was starting to come back and the days and nights were colder. When you reserve your spot on the trail back in January or whenever you try to sign up, you don't know what the trail conditions and weather will be during the time you're picking, so you have to be ready for anything. You might get a week of sun or a week of rain. If you have your own car, I suggest bringing a variety of gear to the trailhead, getting the weather forecast at the trail office, and making your final choices of which gear to take then. Here's my general list of gear. Next, I'll talk about each one, including brand and style, how they performed on the trail, and what I thought of them. Pause the video here if you want to write them down. Everything I brought, I used, except the emergency whistle. First, the boots. My boyfriend and I came up with a theory that maybe we could wear really lightweight, non-waterproof hiking shoes, let them get wet, and let them dry out. I got some, as well as dirty girl gaiters to go over them just to keep out debris. We also brought waterproof boots and knee-high gaiters to the trailhead. We saw everyone coming off the trail in muddy boots and gaiters, and we saw the forecast for rain and cold. At the last minute, we decided to switch to the boots and gaiters, and we were so glad we did. Using shoes that could get wet and then dry over and over was a nice theory, but I do not recommend it for this trail. My boots are waterproof Merrells, and I was glad I had them. Gaiters are strongly recommended. Make them knee-high and waterproof. All we had at the last minute were some for snowshoeing, which were not waterproof, but the trail was not as muddy as it could have been, and they mostly sufficed. You might also use them for fording rivers, and of course they help keep sand and other debris out of your shoes. Not having them will likely mean wet and muddy socks, shoes, and feet for the whole trip. Speaking of socks, I got Right socks for liners and some thicker hiking socks for cushioning. Right socks are supposedly anti-blister, but they did not work for me. I got blisters on both of my fourth toes, and they hurt. Maybe Right socks will work for you, but they didn't for me. Once I started on the trail, however, I was stuck with them and had to make the best of it. I brought 3 pairs, and I was glad I did. I washed a pair at camp each night and needed 2 days for them to dry, hanging off the back of my pack while I hiked. Before the hike, I sewed on little loops so I could hang the socks with carabiners. I only brought 2 pairs of the thicker socks, and one day was not enough time for them to dry completely after washing. I had to focus on holding them over the campfire in the evening to get them to dry. If you are going to save weight and space by washing your socks, I still recommend 3 pairs. If it rains, you may not be able to dry your socks or anything else hanging off of your pack while hiking. I got lucky in that there wasn't much rain. If you have the space, you might consider bringing a pair of socks for each day. Sandals. I got ultralight sandals made by Hi-Tec Waimea Falls model for river crossings and around camp, and I really liked having them. My boyfriend didn't bring anything but his boots, but borrowed my sandals. I recommend bringing some kind of water shoes. I clip my sandals to my pack with carabiners when not wearing them. They don't have tread as good as my hiking boots, and I had to be careful using them in slippery streams, especially with my pack on, but using my trekking poles, I was able to balance well enough. Rain pants. I got Marmot Pre-cip rain pants and I liked a lot of things about them, but not the waistband. The drawstring is almost ineffective, and pinning the waist between my pack's hip belt and my body was very uncomfortable because of all the little pleating in the waistband. It abraded my skin. I did like how the lower legs unzip for getting them off over boots, although that did get the insides of the pants muddy, and the leg cuffs have a much better drawstring than the waist does. They did keep me dry, and were fairly lightweight. They also have front pockets big enough to stick my sunglasses or other items in, but overall the waistband was a big negative. I wouldn't buy these again. Liner pants. I wore a lightweight layer under my rain pants next to my skin. I think it was the lightest Patagonia brand inner layer, but I'm not sure. I got it a long time ago. Sometimes I did get too warm while hiking, and I pulled it up to my knees, where it stayed. But I did wear it every day. Shorts. White Sierra brand West Loop trail shorts. I also wore a pair of shorts between my liner and rain pants, and now I'm not sure why. I had the idea it might be warm enough to go in just shorts, but it never was. I did like the fit and the light weight of these shorts, and I will use them again, but I'm not sure I needed them on this hike. Underwear for women. I can't comment on any men's underwear. I invested in merino wool icebreaker siren hipkinis, and they were great. I brought 2 pair and washed 1 each night. They dried quickly and never developed a smell for me. They didn't ride up, didn't constrict in any way. I really liked them. Rain jacket. I got the Outdoor Research Helium 2 jacket for women. It worked great. It was lightweight and kept off the rain. No complaints. Fleece jacket. I brought along an old fleece jacket for warmth, and I was glad I did. It's Patagonia brand, but I have no idea the model anymore. I wore it around camp a lot and usually started off wearing it in the morning when we started hiking. I also slept with it on. It got a lot of use. Hiking shirt. Sierra Design's long sleeve solar wind shirt. I invested in this shirt and loved it also. Lightweight, breathable, long sleeve for sun protection, mesh back to help ventilate, collar for class, and snaps down the front I could open for extra ventilation. I really liked it. For the ladies, sports bras, I can't really give a recommendation. I brought 1 sports bra and washed it every night. I got it in Japan some years ago. It's all synthetic, but the brand has long ago worn off. It dried pretty well, and even if it didn't, I didn't mind putting it on in the morning a bit wet. A big brimmed hat with attached scarf. I didn't pick this hat, it was a gift, but it worked just fine. It kept the sun off me and had ventilation around the top to keep me cool. I attached a scarf to the back of it with safety pins to cover my neck from the sun. One of the safety pins also doubled as a blister piercer for me. Sunglasses. Even though parts of the trail are in the forest, others are along the beach. I recommend you bring some. Lightweight gloves. I picked up some driving gloves at a local Daiso, which is a Japanese dollar store, and brought them along. I wore them when hiking on the beach to keep my hands from getting sunburned. I was also going to wear them when climbing ladders to prevent splinters, but the wood was usually so wet there was no danger of splinters. I don't know if I would bring gloves again. I bathed before bed each night to help keep my night clothes and sleeping bag clean. Of course it was rather chilly, but it was nice to feel clean at the end of each day. My hiking clothes got dirty, but my night clothes stayed clean. Warm pants for sleeping. I brought along an extra thick North Face Polar Tech fleece pants for sleeping in. I was glad I did. I wore them every night. Warm top for sleeping. I got a mid-weight Patagonia Capeline crew top for sleeping. Wore it every night. Warm socks for sleeping. I brought some thick and comfy socks for my feet at night. Warm hat for sleeping. I also brought a fleece hat for sleeping in. I've had it forever and have no idea now on the brand or model. It gave me warmth and helped block out the early dawn light. It did nothing to stop the dawn bird song, however. I also wore it around camp for extra warmth. Tent. We used a Black Diamond brand First Light model tent. It's compact and lightweight, easy to set up and take down, and doesn't require a fly, but it's about 4 inches too short for 6-foot-tall persons, and a lot of moisture accumulates on the inside. Tent vestibule. The Black Diamond First Light has an optional vestibule which attaches to the front like a covered porch. We used it almost every night, including during a major rainstorm, to keep our packs dry. I floored the vestibule with flat driftwood to keep our stuff off of the sand, which worked well. We were extremely glad we had the vestibule. If your tent does not have one and is not large enough for you and your gear, consider bringing some other kind of cover to keep your gear dry. Tarp for tent footprint. Under the tent we put a tarp. Keeps the tent cleaner. Sleeping pad. I used a Thermarest Trail Pro regular length men's sleeping pad. It's 1 pound 14 ounces. I have had a lot of trouble sleeping on backpacking pads, and this is the best one I've had. Although of course it's nowhere near as comfy as a real bed. Once I was exhausted enough, I did manage to sleep on this one. I'm 6 feet tall and this pad was just long enough for me. The longer length would not have fit in the tent. Sleeping bag. I used a unisex North Face Cat's Meow regular length sleeping bag. It was plenty long enough for me, and I'm 6 feet tall. It kept me plenty warm. Being synthetic meant it was bigger and heavier than a down sleeping bag, but dried out quicker, which is important on a trail that sees a lot of rain. Pillow. I used a Pillow X by Climate, and I liked it. I was worried it would be too noisy against my sleeping bag, but I had no trouble with that. It was also moderately comfy, best if you only partially inflate it. It also packs down to the size of a lighter. Headlamp. I used one of my boyfriend's Black Diamond brand headlamps. Worked great. Backpack. I got an Osprey Aerial 75. I'm really bony and it left sore spots on my hips and clavicles, but it was better at putting the weight on my hips than any other pack I've used. I never felt overburdened. It has a sleeping bag compartment at the bottom that my Cat's Meow bag just barely fit in. The side pouches are not that great, but I managed to cram some stuff in them. The main compartment held most of my stuff. Directly on the back, there's an outside pouch that I used a lot to stuff different layers of clothing in. The top compartment is poorly designed, I think, so that whenever I opened it, stuff would naturally fall out by gravity. I lost my pack's rain cover that way, after the hike, thankfully. And here's the rain cover for my pack that I lost. I got the one that fit the Osprey pack. It worked fine. The cook stove and cookware was provided by my boyfriend, and I'm not sure of the brand, so unfortunately I cannot review them here. Although the campsites usually have bear boxes, there's a chance you'll need to string up your food, or you'll want to make a clothesline. We got an ultralight line for this that worked well. Lawson Outdoor Equipment Ultra Glide Bear Line. Very lightweight and strong, also reflective. Recommended. Dry bags for separating out the contents of your pack, keeping your day and your hiking clothes separate. My boyfriend was smart and got actual dry bags, Outdoor Research brand Diddy bags. I ended up going to Daiso, the Japanese dollar store, and getting some random drawstring bags, but they mostly worked. The one I was going to use for my camera broke the first day though, and my boyfriend lent me a small dry bag. Toiletries like toothbrush, toothpaste, comb, etc. I didn't get any special toiletries. I just brought travel size everything. Toilet paper. You'll need to bring some. The outhouses might not have any. Try to get some designed for camping or at least septic safe toilet paper as it will decompose faster. Camp soap for washing bodies and clothes. We lost my bottle of soap on the way up and had to find some other stuff, but we use soap every evening. It was nice to get clean. Small, lightweight camp towels. We brought 3 and we used them all the time. Dried them during the day as we were hiking with it strapped to our packs. Fire starter, matches, and quick start fire sticks. We wanted campfires for both psychological and practical reasons, so we made one at every camp. You can only have campfires on the beach. The beaches can be windy, so having something to help you quick start is useful. Water containers and water filter and backup iodine tablets for water purification. You must make the water safe to drink and have at least one backup water purification method. You can boil it, but that takes fuel. You can use a filter, which is what we did, or use tablets. We also brought 3 different water containers, 2 large Nalgene bottles, and 1 pouch. Instant heat packs. I used instant heat packs a few times along the hike. One morning was rainy and cold, and having the pack made me feel a bit better. Some people report inconsistent performance with heat pouches, but the ones I carried, made in Japan, worked for me. Moleskin. I used moleskin to cover up the spots being rubbed raw by my pack. I think it helped a little. Carabiners. Very useful for clipping things to the outside of your pack to dry. I attached my socks, sandals, Nalgene bottles, and even my hiking boots when crossing streams while wearing my sandals to the back of my pack. I bought a bunch of big ones, but then ended up only taking 6 smaller, lighter ones. 6 was enough for me. My boyfriend used only 2. Camera with extra batteries and data cards. The hike is beautiful. You'll want to take some pictures of it, but you do run the risk of your camera getting wet. Capture clip for carrying your camera. I invested in a capture clip for my camera and was very glad I did. I used it for the whole hike and never once dropped my camera. The only downside was that the plate you screw onto the back of the camera blocks the card and battery access hatch, at least on my model of camera. The clip was also a bit heavy, which is to be expected for quality construction. The clip also costs quite a lot, so consider if you want to make the expense. Cell phone or other time-keeping device. You'll want this if you're watching the tides, or just want to know what time it is. Actual cell coverage is spotty. Some people say you can get cell towers from Washington State at certain places along the trail. Emergency whistle. I carried one just in case. Didn't use it. P-style for the ladies. Too much information category. This allows women to urinate standing up with only minor clothing disturbances. I found this useful a few times when there wasn't an outhouse or a place to sneak off into the brush. The forest is dense and not easy to wander off into to hide yourself. It worked for me with no mistakes and no leaks. Trekking poles. My boyfriend didn't use any, but I did, and I love them. If you have poles already and you're used to using them, I strongly recommend bringing them. I use them over and over for balancing in difficult spots and for prodding mud and water to test for support and hidden rocks and wood to step on. Be prepared to lose any rubber feet you put on them. They will come off in the mud and you'll never find them again. My poles are aluminum Alpine Design poles, which are okay. I was going to replace them with the Lecky Cork Light, which looks like a fantastic pole, but then I decided to just use my current poles. I think that's all. I hope this has been somewhat helpful. Feel free to leave questions and I'll try to respond, or share your own favorite gear in the comments. Happy trails!